All right, let's climb to 3,500.
3,000, climb to 3,500.
You need more right rudder.
Are you sure?
We all need right rudder to climb, and listen to your CFI, it's going to save you some time.
Right Rudder Marketing. We're pilots who help flight schools grow. Let's train more pilots.
A little tour clear one is like
My friend.
All right, Maisha, take one.
sorry. Okay, 1, 2.
Good, keep coming down.
A little bit more.
All right, let's climb to 3,500.
3,000, climb to 3,500.
You need more right rudder.
Are you sure?
We all need right rudder to climb, and listen to your CFI, it's going to save you some time.
Right Rudder Marketing. We're pilots who help flight schools grow. Let's train more pilots.
A little tour clear one is like
My friend.
All right, Maisha, take one.
sorry. Okay, 1, 2.
Good, keep coming down.
A little bit more.
All right, let's climb to 3,500.
3,000, climb to 3,500.
You need more right rudder.
Are you sure?
We all need right rudder to climb, and listen to your CFI, it's going to save you some time.
Right Rudder Marketing. We're pilots who help flight schools grow. Let's train more pilots.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Aviation Business Podcast. I am your host, Tim Jedrek. I am the owner and founder of Right Rudder Marketing. We're so happy to have you here. If you are listening on Spotify, YouTube, whatever, after the fact, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you follow us on, I don't know, social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever we've got going on there, whatever your preferred platform is. So, quick some housekeeping stuff, right? We always want to do housekeeping before we begin the show. If you are with us live, we have a couple of guests and audience members on the live chat here. There's a thing on the right side. Just put your questions in there. If you want to participate or if you want to make a comment, I'm all game for that too. If you're a flight school, you're looking for help for enrollment, for revenue, for growing your top line, check out Right Rudder Marketing. We've been at this for quite a bit. RightRudderMarketing.com. I got the link down there in the description. We're around like 40, 50 schools. We're halfway through our mission, guys. So our mission and vision for the company is to help 100 flight schools across the globe train and enroll more pilots, double their revenue, double their enrollments. And I want you guys, if you are a flight school, I want you to be the next one. I want you guys to be the next flight school we work with. We're looking for a specific type of flight school. You got to be ambitious. You got to care about your business. You got to want to grow. You got to want to actually have that fire in you. And if you're that type of person, we want you in our circle. So give us a call, 314-804-1200, or give us, what do you call it? Go to our website, send us an email, info@redruddermarketing.com, fill out a form or something like that. Me or one of my team members will reach out to you. On the other hand, if you are just listening and you want to be a guest here, maybe you have a great story, maybe you have, maybe you're a part of a company that works in the aviation market, whether it's, 135 stuff, 121 stuff, 61, 141 stuff. That's what we kind of specialize in, is the trading stuff, the ab initio programs. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, I want to formally give you my invitation. Give us a call, 314-804-1200. If you are a flight school owner as well, check out our Facebook group. We have something on there for you as well. A lot of resources on our websites. We have, webinars, podcasts. We kind of give away our playbook that's in here, the Flight School Handbook of Marketing Knowledge. It talks about all the stuff we do here as far as how to grow your school online, how to get more student pilots, how to enroll more student pilots, how to increase your top line revenue. Great wealth of knowledge here. Please check it out on Amazon and all that type of stuff. Okay, so today we have a special guest today. It is he found us on YouTube supposedly, which is great. However, he has a lot of years and decades in the aviation industry. So he is coming, I think, from Dubai. Worked with a lot of airlines and all that type of stuff. He's on here on his own personal and professional capacity. He spent about 30 years, so 3 decades in airline pricing, revenue management, technology across the Middle East, Africa, Asia. Everything he's sharing today is his own view. It's not speaking for any airline or any employers, current or former. So take that with a grain of salt. But he's very experienced about the airline industry. So if you're interested in the 121 world and learning a little about that, hopefully this podcast, hopefully this discussion we have with Humayoon here today can benefit you. So without further ado, Humayoon, welcome to the show. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, thank you so much, and very happy to be on your podcast today.
Yes, sir. I like to kick it off usually by just give us a quick introduction. How did you get to where you are today? What have you been working on? What have you been doing? What's kind of your experience, your background, and what do you want to share with the world right now?
All right. Okay. So thank you so much. I'm Humayoon Muhammad, and I help airline translating complex commercial challenges into insightful, forward-looking decisions. So my career spans over 3 decades working across aviation technology, business performance, and aviation roles within Middle East, Africa, and Asia. I was fortunate enough to work in different business units within the airlines, right from reservations, ticketing, pricing, sales support, tariffs, revenue management, consulting, and advisory roles. So this actually helped me in analyzing the airlines from different angles and to understand how airlines make commercial decisions and remain sustainable. Over the years, I developed a specific interest in the relationship between data, strategy, and its execution. And that's where I realize that data, while it helps airlines understanding what is happening, defining the right strategy helps airline executing initiatives which can be successful in long run. So I started with reservation ticketing, and then I realized that my curiosity in understanding how airlines data works and how airlines interact with different partners within the industry, I gradually moved into different roles within the airlines. And today I am more focused in understanding how airline revenue management is evolving into total customer value optimization, which means bringing all the departments, integrating all the departments within the commercial of airline under one integrated platform, which is more focused on achieving customer value and for a benefit for the enterprise.
Okay, quite the introduction there. So 30 years in the airline industry working on revenue management and pricing, I guess. And wow. So a lot of people that are in my circle, as far as flight school owners, pilots, student pilots, CFIs, and all that type of stuff. A lot of it's kind of like the elephant in the room. I don't think it's an elephant. It's just there. It's just, a lot of people that go into these programs, flight training, they primarily do it to get an airline job. Me personally, my story, I was trained to be a pilot about 5-6 years ago, and the reason I started that, I was working in corporate manufacturing, and I wanted to be an airline pilot. I wanted to change my career. Luckily, right rudder marketing came to being in somewhere in the mix, and I stopped that. But I did finish my my pilot training and all that type of stuff. But it is kind of the focus, I would say, for a lot of schools out there. We want to make sure that when we're training our students that they go to the airlines or a corporate or anything like that. So it's definitely, it's nice to hear it from the other side. We usually have a lot of guests here that are heavily involved in the flight training market. But this is like kind of the next step. After ab initio programs, it's all about getting to the airlines, getting involved. At least in the U.S., we call it Part 121. Get involved with those. Some people go to the 135 world, which is like the charter stuff and corporate pilot stuff. But a majority of our pilots that we train here in the U.S., they do go to the airlines to facilitate that need. So it's great having you on here.
Thank you.
I guess to start us off on some of the questions to kind of start our discussion. What got you involved? What got you involved in aviation? Like what was appealing to you to start working in the airline industry, and how did you come to be in that realm?
Well, interestingly, I never wanted to be a part of commercial aviation. I always wanted to be an aeronautical engineer, but that did not work out well for me, and I landed myself in commercial aviation. But then, I immediately realized that airline is not only about transporting passengers from point A to point B, and that was my understanding initially. It is more about understanding the complex commercial challenges airline face and solving them, translating them into insightful decisions using data. And that was my initial step to work into the airline. So when I got into this, I was always not very confident that I may not be able to continue here. But then later on, I found my interest in this, and I realized that there's a lot more for me to do here and to learn. And then I made this as my runway, and then I intentionally stayed in the aviation. It is like an addiction for me now, so I just can't think of any other business outside aviation.
It's quite the exciting one. I mean, I've always loved aviation. Even before I was a pilot, I've flown around, and I've always kind of wondered what was going on. Like now I understand what's going on when they're landing, but I remember as a kid, I'd be in the window seat just looking at the wing, and then the wing would change. Every single time as we're landing, I'm like, ooh, they're changing the wing, and we're like, what's going on? Now I know it's flaps. I know they're reducing, what do you call it, increasing lift, reducing drag, or increasing drag, whatever. That way they can land and slow the plane down. I didn't know that back then, but I was always fascinated by it, and I never got to the engineering realm of it. My sister did. She went to like Embry-Riddle. Shout out to Teresa out there. I don't know if she's listening to over here, but yeah, she's an aeronautical engineer. She's actually working, I think, with a contractor that works with Boeing. I'm not sure. I don't want to give her information away. But anyway, yeah, aviation has always been part of like kind of my goals. I guess it was more of a side quest, and then now it became the main quest. So here you are. I think one of the things I read on your brief when I was being introduced to you is kind of on the commercial side of things and the airlines. Is like customer value optimization, and really like how do we increase the experience for the airline customers. So I guess it's kind of twofold on there, because it's the organization as a whole. You have the corporate identity, what offerings they give to the customers. But on the other hand, just for us as pilots, are there anything that we can do as pilots, whether you're a 121 pilot or just looking to be in the industry? Is there anything that we can do as pilots to really help the customers for these airlines have a better experience?
Yeah, okay. So when I talk about customer value optimization, my primary objective is to share the information how airlines are evolving today. So if you talk about reservations, if you talk about ticketing, if you talk about airline revenue management, so we are talking about the commercial side of the airline. If you talk about this, the airline operates in a very complex legacy systems, and all these commercial systems are interconnected within that legacy systems. A lot of complexity in changing these systems, but then this entire concept has changed over the period of time, particularly with this evolution of e-commerce and retailing. So customer today is much more informed than they were in the past. So if we are talking about specifically how airlines pilots can help customers, there could be several ways. But today, what I could shed more light on this is from the commercial perspective. The entire structure of the airline has changed now. So this starts from passengers. Today's passenger is much more informed, more digitally savvy. They get real-time information. They can quickly check what offers which airline is offering. In fact, they can now see the history of the airline, if there is any, God forbid, if there's any crash in that airline, if the aircraft was landed safely, if there was any crash landing. So passengers, they look into all these things on social media. So they are much more well-versed. Then comes the airline. Today, airlines have also changed. In the past, it was simply a ticket from point A to point B. But today, airlines are offering ancillaries to the customer. They are offering value-added services to their customers. So the landscape has changed. Then comes the technology. Extremely important for us to understand the way aviation technology is evolving. Real-time data is available now instead of waiting for the batch to process, which means airlines can now see how they are performing, and then they can take immediate corrective measures. Then there are different operating models. In the past, there was only one type of airline. I mean, they call it legacy airlines or a full-frill airline, but now they have low-cost airline, they have ultra-low-cost airlines. Then we have premium-only airlines, then we have hybrid airlines, and we have, of course, legacy airlines. So the overall in the ecosystem, the overall structure has changed. Now this has pushed airlines to think outside the box and look towards retailing and come out of that traditional revenue management or traditional way of managing customers. So the system what airlines are using today is very complicated, very complex, and at times that system is not able to cater the customer preferences. And that's where airline realized that it's a high time for us to come out of this and look for retailing, look for customer value. And that's where we are heading now. If
So
we look at
you mentioned that there's a lot of legacy systems on here, and that we're upgrading the system. So what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean by like we're? Because I feel that you're also saying that's very complex, it's complicated. But on the other hand, you're also saying that the airlines are changing, they're upgrading their system. So by what means? Because I remember back in the day, especially before 9/11 and all that stuff, we'd go to like the gate. If you went on a flight, you'd have to use a travel agent, for example, or you have to go to the airport to buy a ticket. There's a lot of new things out there like Google Flight. That's a tool that my wife uses. I personally use a thing called Skyscanner to really get pricing for airlines, and then I use that to book. What are these systems that you're talking about that are, I guess, legacy, and what are some of the improvements we're seeing in the industry as we're moving forward in 2027 and beyond?
All right. So the systems like Skyscanners and other online travel agents like Booking.com, Skyscanner, and some others which you use like CheapTickets.com, and there are many. These are the online travel agents, OTAs, which is between you and the business. I mean, this is B2C. But what I'm talking about is the back-end system where airline systems are hosted. So this means there is a technology partner with every airline. When you make a reservation on Skyscanner, it talks to the system at the airline. In the airline, it picks up the inventory from there and shows you the availability. At the same time, from the airline system, then the reservation talks to the inventory management system. So it picks up one seat from the inventory. And similarly, once the ticket is issued and once passenger goes to the airport, it talks to the airport system that there is one passenger booked on this flight to fly from point A to point B. Once the passenger departs, the check-in system updates that information and sends this information back to the inventory management system that, okay, on a flight from point A to point B, we carried 100 passengers, 5 were no-shows, these were go-shows, and all this information. So I'm talking about the back-end system. Now, when I say these systems are very complex and these are legacy systems, what happens is the airline, when a passenger flies from point A to point B, it captures that data in flight history, in the system's history. So the more stronger, the more bigger history you have, so if you have 10 years history, 20 years history, the more stronger your booking forecast will be, your system forecast will be. So your system will forecast and tell you, okay, on this flight, on this day of week, you will have this many passengers boarding on a flight. It's like a forecast. Now, if we change that system, airlines are worried that what happens to our historical data, because that is very important. At the same time, those systems are integrated, so it's not that you just turn off and turn on. The airlines need to consider that all these back-end systems should continue talking to each other. They cannot freeze their system for a day or for an hour or for a minute because the flights are departing, airports, passengers are boarding, passengers are checking in, passengers are making reservations. So the business continuity should be there, but at the same time, they need to make sure that they move to another system. And what are we planning now? Where are we heading to? We are heading towards one order. One order, let me explain this to you outside the airline. So when we go to McDonald's and order a meal, or when either online or on counter, two customers ask for the same meal, but one asks for upsized drink and other one asks for upsized fries. So the price what you pay is the main course price plus the additional price of upsizing your drink or your fries. So two customers pay a different price, and at the same time you get one reference. If you are booking online, you get one reference which says, okay, your order is placed, and you can track your delivery on the same order number. So end of the day, you have only one order number from beginning till the end. You place an order, you pay online, you track your delivery, and you receive your delivery, and everything is updated on one order number. Whereas in airline system presently, we have different PNRs, or the booking references. So for example, you book a ticket, you get one PNR number, which is the passenger name recorder, your booking reference. Then you like to reserve a car hire upon arrival, you book a car and you get another reference. Then you book a hotel, you get another reference, and now you are tracking these 3 different numbers. So what airlines is now planning or now targeting to make everything under one order, which means you will make one offer, which means you will look for a car, your hotel, your ticket, and then you will make one order, same reference number, where you can make a booking for all 3 segments, all 3 services. So although you are using airline website, but you will use a ground segment as well in this. You will have a non-airline segment as well on this, and then you will pay, and then you will track it until you reach your destination with one common identity or a PNR number or the booking reference. Now, in order to make this work in the new environment, there are a lot of complications. Why complications? Because now airlines have to make a deal with the hotels, with car hire, and all 3 systems need to speak with each other so that one reference number can be tracked. And then what happens is you reach upon arrival and you realize that the car which you requested is not available, or the hotel you reach there and there is some dispute between you and the hotel where you asked for something and they're providing you something else. So then comes a customer complaint. Who is going to address that complaint? Airline, who collected the money, or hotel directly, or car, or the car hire company. So now these integrations needs to be established, and that's why I said there are many complexities involved in this. This we are talking about three different services. Now if you talk about within the airline, at times you use interline carriers, which means you fly from point A to point B with one carrier, and then from point B to point C to your destination, you take another domestic airline or other airline, but holding one document, the one which you purchased, where you paid the money. Now you have two different booking references, one for the host airline and one for the other airline. Going forward, if it is going one, it is going to be one tracking number. In case of flight delays, in case of cancellations, in case of denied boarding, where are you going to contact as a customer? To the host airline or to the other airline? So these are the complexities which airlines need to address, and they are successfully doing it, but over the period of time, it will be done, not overnight. Initially, there was some discussion that by 2025, this will be a one order, IATA one order will be executed across the airlines. But then it was pushed to 2030. As of now, there is no firm date, but IATA's mandate is that ultimately all airlines must move to IATA one order. And that's where airlines are working on. There are few airlines who have already migrated there, but there are many airlines who are still working in parallel with their existing system, and then they are moving towards in that direction. Technology companies are helping them, and of course technology partners have upgraded their systems and they have capability to make this happen. But there are some prerequisites which airlines are now fulfilling, working with technology partners. On day-to-day basis, airlines are facing many challenges. Okay, so the biggest challenge for them is to make revenue for the company. The biggest challenge for them is the resources. The biggest challenge for them is to handle the flight disruption, God forbid, just before departure. Now, who is going to focus on IATA one order when they have an aircraft grounded? So they need to manage this. They need to shuttle between these priorities and make this happen.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay. Okay, so I completely know what you're talking about. Like, for example, I'm going to Japan or something like that. I'll fly United, but then, like, I might fly United from St. Louis to like, LA, and then from LA to Narita, it's probably, JAL or whatever you call it. Same thing when I went to, like, Mexico or something like that. I might fly, Delta, then across the same ticket I hold, it then goes to, say, Volair or I forgot what it's called, Polar. I forgot what the airline is over there. Or LATAM Airlines or something like that. It changes the carrier, but the same ticket. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I think, partnerships and alliances that are within the 121 world. They all kind of sync up. And even competitors. I'll give a small story for this one. We were flying to, our initial intention was to fly to Reno, Nevada. We were trying to visit a flight school over there. Weather came into play, and then basically all flights were getting canceled. So we said, okay, well, let's just go to Vegas or something like that instead. It's nearby. And I think our initial flight was with the Delta Airlines, and then somehow in the same airport they were able to shoot our information over in their system to a competitor, which was United or American Airlines. I forget what it was, one of the legacy carriers. And they had our ticketing and all our stuff ready to go. So I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff in the back end that's linking up and all that type of stuff. So it's really quite. I don't think that was there. I think we take it for granted as the consumer level. If you take it for granted that all these connections, there's definitely a team in place. Probably Humayoon, you're probably involved in this to make that possible for us. You know, I think a lot of people, you just say, oh yeah, book a ticket and let's just go. There's a whole lot of things that have happened in the airlines, and a lot of admin and people that are working to get you guys from point A to point B that we just don't understand. One of the topics you kind of mentioned was like, hey, you have an order. One guy wants to upgrade their fries, one guy wants to upgrade their drink, whatever. That causes the differences in price. Now online, I don't know if you heard about this. This was not in our brief here, but I think it is in the brief. So one of the things that is kind of controversial with the airlines that I want to address here while I have you on here is that there's a difference in pricing based on demographics. So this really plays into the marketing aspect of it too, like customer data, privacy, all the type of stuff. For example, let's say I'm flying from St. Louis to Miami. They might quote me $300. Fine, whatever. Now, for example, let's say my IP address is somehow in LA or something like that, or in a richer area. They might price me $500 for that flight. Or even better, let's say my IP address is, let's say in, I don't know, Europe, or let's say it's in Brazil or South America. Instead of paying $300 because they know they can't afford it, they'll price it at $150. Well, we want the cheaper price too. So this has been a very point of contention. I don't know if it's true or not. But I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where they debunk this, where they'll use a VPN and they'll get different pricing entirely. And I think that my take on it is it's ridiculous. We pay a ticket and we're paying the same seat. I'm getting economy, whatever, and I'm not getting my first class meal, whatever, but I'm still paying hundreds of dollars versus the other guy. He's in the seat next to me. He paid $100 less. How is that fair? So how does that work? I don't know. So is this a true thing, or is this like just all conspiracy, or I don't know? What's the take on that?
Yeah, okay. So Tim, first of all, just to change the mood, why do you ask your passenger how much did you pay for the ticket?
Because I want the cheapest price, man. I am a knowledgeable buyer, and I want the cheapest price. I mean, I take it for granted. I think now we have revenue going to the business. I just took a flight now, but when I was thinking, when I was a regular 9 to 5 Joe Schmo working a job, a couple $100 means a lot to me. Obviously as a business class type person, where I'm like, hey, well, we're traveling for business. There's revenue. It's customers. We have customers. We got a service. The price matters less. It's more about the timing. I need to get there on this date, like now. But as a consumer level, if I just want to take a vacation with my kids to, let's say Europe, I want the cheapest price possible. So hearing this online, this discourse where people based on their IP address or location are getting something cheaper, that would upset the customer. So how does that play out in the airline world, and how are they getting away with this?
Right. So what happens is pricing is defined based on several factors. So one is the economic factor, of course. Then pricing is also considered looking at the flight demand as well. If that particular OND is the origin and the destination is in demand, the fares are accordingly priced. But it is more of a revenue management function, what you're referring to. It's not primarily because of the IP address, but when you go online, you see the country, you can select the country from where you are buying a ticket. On some of the tickets, they have some restrictions on the country of sales. So you are not allowed to use, or you're not allowed to buy some specific fares from other part of the world. So it has to be purchased from the place you are traveling, from your point of origin. That is also considered. Then the time of the booking. So like I'm coming back to your same statement, like two passengers sitting on the same flight next to each other paying two different prices. It purely depends on what time the booking was made and the ticket was purchased, what time the ticket was purchased. So airlines have a limited capacity, and that too perishable inventory. So for discussion's sake, let's say airlines have 100 seats to sell from point A to point B, and they know that this flight has a demand. In the backend system and revenue management, once the flight is born in the system, once the flight is generated in the system, which is almost 361 days in advance, system, a new flight comes in the system. So when the flight comes in the system, you see days, the day the flight is born, there are no bookings, but when gradually bookings start coming in, you see a booking curve increasing in the flight. The booking curve tells us that now passengers have started booking in. So the true revenue management analyst is the one who truly understands how many days before departure their flight will pick up, how many passengers will book, on which day of week, on day of week flight, on a particular departure time flight, how many passengers will book and how many passengers will cancel, how many days before departure. So that this booking curve tells us how many days before departure each passenger will book. Then comes your travel type. Like you said, if you're traveling with your family on a vacation and you're flexible about your travel dates because you will like the best price and you don't mind changing your date one day earlier or later. But if you're traveling on a business and you must reach there on a particular date and time, then you do not look at the price, you look at the flexibility. What if my meeting is canceled? What if my meeting is delayed? I want to be here, and in case if the meeting is canceled, I can cancel this booking and I can rebook again to a different date. So you are looking for some flexibility. So for flexibility, you pay a higher price. Whereas when you show your flexibility in terms of changing the date, you pay a lower price. But when you want a flexibility where you can change your reservation anytime, you pay a higher price. And that's what happens when you go to the aircraft, you see two passengers sitting next to each other paying a different price because they probably booked at a different time and you probably book at a different time. And your requirement is different and other passenger's requirement is different. You are traveling on a vacation, the other passenger is traveling on a business trip or vice versa. And that's how you see a price differentiation.
Totally understand. I have noticed that too. So I always, if I am going on vacation or something like that, which I never do, by the way. Just kidding. If I'm going for a holiday or something like that, if I'm going on vacation, I like to book my flights as far as advanced as possible because for me personally, I fly internationally if I want to do vacation. And I love America, I love the U.S., and I traveled all over the U.S. too. But for me personally, I love, one of my passions actually is outside of aviation and flying is language learning. So I love going to foreign countries. I love learning languages. Like last year, I was in Taiwan learning like Mandarin. A year before that, I was in Japan learning Japanese and everything. I think this year we're going to Brazil or I don't know, Argentina or Guatemala. I'm trying to pick my Spanish up a little bit better. Maybe next year we might go Middle East and learn some Arabic or Russia. I kind of want to learn some stuff there too. So I say that because I always try to book these in advance because I want the cheapest flight possible, man. These international routes, they're thousands of dollars, so I want to get the cheapest route. With that being said, you kind of talked about booking and how demand there's a curve, right? So and I think hotels do it too. So as the date approaches for the reservation, depending on the demand of it and the capacity of the company, whether it's the airline or a hotel or whatever, you guys are, because there's a higher demand for that, you will raise the price. There's been there's another controversial thing that I just want to bring up too. Overbooking. So overbooking is a thing that has been, it comes up on occasion, but it's worth talking about here. Like airlines will overbook their flights because they know that some people will cancel. However, sometimes people don't cancel. So then you have an overbooked flight, and that's how you got viral video of security escorting some random guy that paid for his ticket and getting off the airline, and they're dragging, he's kicking his feet and everything, and it just doesn't look good, right? It doesn't look good for the industry. So can you talk to us a little bit about overbooking and pricing, and if that's a real thing, or if that's just something that's not there, or maybe the public is misinformed of something. Maybe there's something that we just don't know that's happening. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So overbooking is my favorite topic. Thank you so much for touching on that. All right, so I'll tell you what. Okay, so as we talk about the flight when it generates in the system 361 days before departure, more or less. Okay, so when the booking starts picking up, it picks up like gradually you see booking coming in and the graph goes up, and then comes an apex. Apex is the point where you start seeing bookings dropping. Then you don't see any bookings coming in. So throughout the life cycle of a flight, you see bookings coming in and canceling as well. So passengers are booking on ticketing time limit, bookings get canceled, so bookings coming in and getting canceled until you reach the apex. Once you reach the apex, that could be 3 days before departure, or 4 days before departure, or 2 days before departure. That's the apex, or 7 days before departure. It depends on the flight profile. And then you hardly get any new bookings, and then you see only cancellations. So the flight analyst who is managing the flight, he is so well versed that he understands on a particular flight, on a particular day of week, on a particular time, my flight will start picking up until 3 days before departure. And within 3 days, I'll have only cancellations. One-off bookings here and there is fine. But in general, 3 days before departure, I'll have cancellations. So let's take a scenario, an aircraft with 100 seats, and 3 days before, and you see a bookings coming in, and you know 3 days before departure, I'm going to get 5 cancellations. So in a capacity of 100 seats, maybe I can overbook to 105, because I know 3 days before departure, I'll have 5 cancellations. So this, on day 0, my booking level will be equivalent to the capacity. Then comes airport no-shows. So no matter whatever restriction you add to the fare, no matter how stringent your fare rules are, there are always a situation where passengers are no-show at the airport. Could be because they report late at the airport, or probably they do not have enough sufficient documents to travel, or the visa is not available, or whatever is the reason. So airport no-shows, the historical trend tells us, or tell that analyst, that airport no-shows are generally 5 no-shows. So for our discussion, I'm using these simple absolute numbers. Generally, it is in percentage. So on a capacity of 100 seats, let's say 5% pre-departure cancellations and 5% airport no-shows. So this means I can overbook my flight to 10%, which means on a capacity of 100, I can book 110. Now, there are other factors as well, which are always considered before overbooking a flight. What are those factors? Seasonality. Is it a peak season or off-peak season? Because if it is a peak season, then there are very few chances that passengers will be no-show. Everyone will travel. And the cancellations will also not be 5%. It will be less than that because everyone wants to travel. It's a peak season. Are there any groups booked on that flight? Groups booked means a group of passengers traveling together to attend any special event or traveling as a tour package. If a group is traveling, then there is a very feeble possibility that they will be no-show on the flight. They will all come. So which means your pre-departure cancellations and airport no-shows will reduce. So analysts consider that as well. Then comes the geopolitical stability. Okay. So if everything is stable, passengers will report to the airport on time. But God forbid, if there is a strike, the roads are closed, then expect that not all passengers will reach airport on time and they may not travel. If there is a strike in the country of origin or at the destination, if the situation is not good, people may not travel. So you expect high number of no-shows. Then it all depends on the connectivity. So you have connecting passengers. So let's say from New York to Chicago, you have a flight, but New York, Chicago on a 100-seater aircraft, you get only 50 passengers from New York. Remaining 50 passengers are coming from all over US. Now, if your flight from Washington to New York, for discussion's sake, Washington to New York is delayed, then you expect that those passengers will be no-show on the flight, which means your flight will depart empty. So you need to keep all those factors in mind before you overbook a flight. So once the flight is overbooked, based on all these criteria, and we talked about only few criteria, there are many to consider, and a staff overbook the flight accordingly. Now what happens is, it is again a system. It is again a forecasted number based on the historical trends. And of course, there are situations at the airport when reported passenger exceeds the capacity. So you pre-departure cancellation, you receive 4 cancellations instead of 5. So you have 1 passenger extra there. And or probably you did not receive any cancellation, or then you have a cancellation. Airport no-shows, instead of 5, you've got only 4 no-shows. This means your flight is overbooked by 2 passengers. So in a capacity of 100, you've got 102 passengers. Now, in airlines, as an industry, there is a standard policy that 5 denied boardings of over 10,000 boarded passengers is a norm. So every day airlines passengers are boarded. So if an airline is boarding 10,000 passengers in a day and there are only 5 denied boardings, that's a norm. That's okay, because airlines are here to optimize revenue. So instead of spoiling the capacity, it's okay to spill by 2 passengers. Why? Because airlines have denied boarding policies in place. Denied boarding policy says, in general, now it varies airline to airline, but in general, the denied boarding policy says that if we fail to offer you a seat where you hold a confirmed ticket and you report it on time and you have valid documents and it was all set to travel, and because of us, we asked you not to travel, we will compensate you with a confirmed ticket on our next flight. If we do not have a flight, we will put you on another airline. We will give you a hotel accommodation if it is needed. If the flight is within 2 hours, 3 hours, you can stay at the airport and we will offer you a meal voucher. You can have meal and you can relax at the airport until we put you another flight. Some airlines even offer a free ticket so they offer you a seat on the next flight plus a free ticket for your next travel. So it varies from airline to airline, but there are compensation policies. Again, the compensation is not the same globally, because there are certain European countries where they have a law that you cannot say no to the customer, confirmed customer. So
you can say no in America, but in Europe you cannot. I guess Europe is a little better on that.
Yeah, so you don't overbook the flight then. Yeah, you don't overbook the flight. But then they also say that in case if you offload the passenger, then you need to pay them X euros or X amount for sure. So then airline calculates, is it worth overbooking or paying a compensation? You better don't overbook the flight and leave it as is, because they are well organized. If they book a ticket, they travel. Generally, it's like that. So airlines consider all these things and then they overbook. And in case we get into a situation when there are no seats available, which means denied boarding, a spillage, so we offer a compensation to the customer and we put the passenger on the next flight. So I don't think passenger needs to fight at the airport for that.
I mean, there's also the other portion of it too. Let's say for our listeners and audience members or our airline pilots, they look at that list for the available seats because they want a jump seat. That's one of the things. They either use either they're in the passenger aisle or they're in the front of the jump seat. One of our team members, she's involved. One of her in her family, they're involved in the airline, so they get the benefits and all this stuff. And they were trying to do the jump seating thing for the longest time just to go on vacation, but they can't. It would never work out. They would they would always get booked, so they could never get good tickets to go wherever they wanted. And that is what it is. I do want to kind of change topics here. Not really. It's a good topic. So you mentioned like no shows to the plane, and when they're taking off and all that stuff. And one of the things that I think is happening recently, this is pretty recent. I think I've heard about this in a couple of years. It's been growing for a couple of years now. It's called skip lagging. I don't know if you heard of skip lagging before. So what happens with the pricing? Let's say if I'm from St. Louis, I'm not a major hub. So we're more of a satellite city. We're definitely a good city. St. Louis is a great city. But we're not like Chicago or Dallas or even like a Miami or LAX, whatever. We're not like that. So we're not a hub. We used to be a hub back in the day, by the way. Shout out St. Louis, TWA Airlines. We're not a hub anymore. So what I've seen a lot of people do online, I have never tried this because technically sometimes I technically could, I guess. So I usually don't travel with checked-in luggage, but what they'll do is they'll book a flight. So let's say I want to get to Dallas, because that's just the hub. It's usually for hub cities. I want to get to Dallas. So if I was to fly from St. Louis to Dallas direct, they might charge me $400. But if I want to fly from, let's say, St. Louis to Miami, or let's say St. Louis to, I don't know, Houston, or no, maybe it's not a good example. That's not a good example. Maybe St. Louis to Miami, I have to do a layover in Dallas anyway, but the ticket is cheaper than just going straight to Dallas. So what they'll do is they'll book the flight from St. Louis to Miami, they'll get off in Dallas and they won't show up for the next leg because they're already at the destination. But they do that to I guess scheme and cheat. I don't know. Have you heard about this? Do you know about this or no?
Yes, yeah, all right. So what I would say is there is a procedure in pricing to overcome that situation, and airlines should know this with themselves. So if airline is aware that if a passenger is taking a via flight, the ticket price is much cheaper, then they should ideally not allowing a stopover on that particular intermediate point. But then what happens is within domestic, you can't control that. Yeah, because if it is an international flight, you can control. But within domestic, you cannot control, particularly if you are not traveling with a luggage. Because if you are having a bag, they will not book your bag up to Dallas. They'll book your bag up to the destination. So your bag will go there and you will land in Dallas. But if you are traveling on a domestic flight, you take a handbag with you, no checked baggage, then of course you can do that. But airlines have come up with a policy to avoid this fare undercutting, which probably you call it skip lag, yeah? So undercutting fare. On these undercutting fares, it is not allowed to take their stopover unless they are allowing intentionally just to grab the passengers. But otherwise, most of the airlines I knew and I worked with, there is always a strict policy that if we are allowing a fare via a point where the fare is much cheaper, we do not allow a stopover there. So passenger cannot stop there. He can just take a flight via that point and travel.
So they're trying to prevent it. That's good. Because because the problem is the pricing made sense to do that. So as long as the airlines formulate the pricing where it doesn't make sense, that's how you avoid the situation, right?
Yeah.
We are coming towards the end of the hour here, but I do have one more topic I want to breach in before we get to call to actions and all type of stuff and conclusion.
Sure.
One topic I want to broach in, want to get into before we conclude is revenue. So one of the things that I think it was have you heard of Wendover? I think Wendover Productions. It's a very famous YouTube channel. I don't know if it's Wendover or the Informatics Show or something like that. It's one of these top YouTube channels that are out there. And they like to cover a lot of stuff with airlines. And one of the things they talked about was like the revenue model of the airlines. So, you think about a jet. Yeah, first class, business class, economy. Obviously, I think half of the revenue comes actually from the first class and the business class, even though there's way less customers in that aspect. Then you have your economy, which is more people, but they pay less. That's me.
Yeah. we all I also do that, yeah.
But then that revenue is actually just a small fraction of the actual revenue of the business as a whole. So my takeaway from this video I watched, now, and correct me if I'm wrong, the airlines, they make a lot of their money from credit cards. It's not actually from seats and air flights. It's actually, that's why they really push this credit card stuff to the consumers, because they make money on the interest, they make money on all this stuff, and they become more of a financial institution than they have an airline charter company. Is this correct, or am I just like out of the water here? I don't know. Did this model, I guess, constitute for a lot of airlines? I know Southwest has it. I know United has a credit card. I know Delta has a credit card. That's in America. I don't know abroad and international if you guys have similar credit cards where the revenue of the company or the revenue of the airline industry is actually more so on benefits and like credit card transactions than it is from booking and seats.
All right, so if I understood correctly, you are saying that airlines have their branded credit card, so you use that credit card and avail some discount, correct?
Right, yeah. What I was saying is that, a lot of these airlines have their own credit card, and they make more revenue off the credit card than they do actually flying people. I don't know if this is right or not, but is it true or?
Yeah. Okay. So what happens is, and as I mentioned earlier, that airline is not about only transporting passengers from point A to point B. It is much more than that. And today's airline is not only surviving on the ticket price, because they're not looking at only the ticket transaction. They are looking at customer value and how they can offer increased benefits to the customer, and they increase customer value, lifetime value for the airline. What what airlines are doing is the branded credit card means if you use their card, you get some extra points as well, the loyalty points as well to travel, which means you are buying a loyalty from the customer. So this means, so pricing is doing their part. They are doing pricing, revenue management is doing the inventory management, but getting customers loyalty and a lifetime value is more important for the airline, because today, probably as you mentioned, Southwest or some other airline, you're flying on that airline, and you do not have a credit card. Tomorrow, other airline will come in the market and they will offer a more attractive price. You may switch to that airline. So in order to retain the lifetime value of the customer, in order to ensure a repeat business from their customer, they do all these marketing tactics so that your customer is loyal to that airline. And why not? Because in return, airline is also offering customer some extra benefits in terms of credit, in terms of extra miles, in terms of tier miles to travel on their flight. So it's like a give and take. Airlines have partnered with many banks, many non-airline entities, so that they can benefit their customers. So customers can now use their points on non-airline services as well. So that's how they do, because they want to make money end of the day, and they want a loyalty as well. They want a customer value as well. If you are holding a branded card of a particular airline, you would at least check once what is the price available. Even if you are paying a little higher on that, probably you'll see, okay, if I use this card, I get some extra credit, I get some extra points, which may help me to buy a free ticket next time, or to get a free ticket or an upgrade on that flight. So that's how the business works.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think we call that, so marketing, we do this as well, especially for our flight schools, we call this the LTV, lifetime value of a customer, right? And I think part of it for airlines is a little different, because you're looking at, seats to fly from point A to point B. For flight schools, it's different, because there's different ratings and certifications you can get for, to become a pilot. You have your private, you have your instrument, you have your commercial, you have your multi-engine, maybe CFI, CFII, MEI, all this type of stuff. All these type ratings as well. Ideally, if you're a flight school, you'd like to keep this customer in-house. That way you can get the full extraction of value. And I think the same thing that the airlines are doing, the airlines want to keep that value. They want to keep the customer locked in with the one airline rather than another airline. So that makes total sense. It makes total sense to me. I'm personally not at that route yet, where I do still do the Google Flights, Expedia, Skyscanner thing. I look at the cheapest flight here. Now, because I have picked up travel a lot, especially being a business owner and traveling to trade shows, traveling to customers, going to meetings. This is not vacation stuff. This is actually for business. I fly a lot commercially and privately. I have created. I was always not going to do it, but I created like loyalty programs. So I have a Southwest not a card, but a Southwest number, a United number, American Airlines number, a Delta number. So now whenever I book a flight, I put my number in there, and I keep racking the miles in there. And I need to capitalize on that eventually. So you got a comment on there. I think Raul, one of our team members, said we got to make a credit card for our flight schools. Right Rudder marketing branded.
You can do that. That's a good idea.
One of these days. Okay, we are towards the end of the show here. I want to give you some room here. So you came on here as a guest. You have a plethora of experience with the airline industry. I usually reserve the last part of our show really for you, as far as call to actions. Like, is there a specific message you want to promote that our audience might help? Our audience is primarily pilots and flight schools, people in the aviation industry, especially ab initio level. Is there any message you want to promote to them from you and your experience in the airlines that you might want to share to our community?
Sure. All right, so my personal observation and my personal experience tells me that today the technology has gone, has reached to its, I won't say it's high, but has expanded tremendously. So artificial intelligence, everyone is using artificial intelligence. It's no secret now. And in the past, it was always considered, IQ was always considered as a key critical criteria to select resources or to identify if that person is intelligent enough to work in this area. So with this artificial intelligence, IQ is not the key element now because the intelligence is coming from AI. AI is giving you intelligence. So today I can go and chat GPT and I can go on AI and I can search for anything and I can get some really brilliant ideas. Same goes for revenue management or whether it is flying or any other business. So intelligence comes from AI. What is important now, along with AI, along with IQ, is your AQ, is your PQ, your SQ. So your social quotient, your passion quotient, your adaptability quotient. Very important. IQ is there, but you need to focus on other areas as well because the situation is so different. And post-COVID, so COVID has taught us a lesson. No one ever thought that the world will come to standstill. Particularly our field, travel and tourism, was badly impacted. Aircrafts were parked. No one ever thought this will happen. So that has taught us that we need to have adaptability quotient as well. This means you need to be resilient. You need to understand how to manage the situation in this unstable situation. You know, when everything is stable and you are running the show, it's not a big deal. Everyone can do it. A true leader is the one who can manage the situation in this adverse situation. Then come your social quotient. You need to be socially well versed. You need to communicate with your colleagues. You need to understand the demand and requirements from people from different belongings and cultures within your team because air transportation is a global industry. You interact with people from different cultures. You interact with people from different nationalities, from different demand. You need to be socially well versed. And then come passion quotient. Passion quotient is very important because passion cultivates innovation, curiosity, knowledge sharing. And if you have a passion, then only you can run, you can work, and you can work successfully in this business. As I mentioned, aviation is an addiction. If you are in this field and if you have a passion to do something, you will never like working for any other business. You just can't work anywhere but aviation. So that's what I would say to all the audience.
I love that. Those are things I haven't heard of. So AQ, EQ, PQ. Yeah, you have to be adaptable, guys. We gotta, be able to work together and collab. I think one of the things that we have in our core values is being professional. Make sure that we keep our best foot forward and we're collaborative with all our team members, with all our vendors, with all our customers. We want to make sure that we're always doing a good job. So whether you're out there, whether you're doing your own business, whatever it is, make sure you keep the basics unlocked. Make sure you're a real human being and you're fun to hang out with. Don't be a butthole, right? So, all right, we're gonna end here. We're gonna end here. Humayoon, this has been a pleasure. I'd love to go another hour or so with you. Unfortunately, I do have another meeting I got to get to, but. If you are listening to this podcast, I want to say thank you for Humayoon for hopping on here. You've given us a wealth of knowledge regarding the 121 and airline world that I think that we don't normally have on this show. So thank you so much for being a guest here. We'll make sure to send the videos to you. We'll promote it and all that type of stuff as well. If you're a flight school and you're looking for help with your marketing, again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, give us a call, 314-804-1200, or if you need any help with your marketing, student enrollments, we're here for you, man. Additionally, if you're listening and you're in the industry, you want to share your story, want to share your insight to us, want to give us your take on the aviation industry or ab initio programs, flight training, being a pilot, the pilot life, whatever it is, reach out. We'd love to have you on our show. We have a lot of content we're doing. We want to just provide the best, stories and content out there for our listeners. So yeah, give us a call, 314-804-1200. If you want to sponsor us, yeah, go for it, whatever. We're not really looking for that, but we're open to it. So yeah, give us a call. Check out our website. There's also the aviationbusinesspodcast.com is out there as well. Our website, redruddermarketing.com. Other than that, we're going to conclude here. Thank you so much, Humayoon. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys around in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Aviation Business Podcast. See you guys around.